I'd like to take some questions from the audience, if anybody has a question for our panelists.
I have a question. You mentioned location-based services. What is that?
Well, mobile technology is evolving pretty quickly, and a lot of the smartphones that we have today have access to everything from Facebook to Twitter. Location-based services, you can use things like Foursquare, Koala, and now Facebook Places to basically check in to locations that you go to. A lot of brands are implementing this into their advertising campaigns and their marketing campaigns to basically allow you to get rewards and couponings and special offers when you check into certain locations. It's a very fast growing sort of demographic or medium, and it's fantastic because everybody has a cell phone in their pocket. So you really are reaching that person where they are at the time.
So is it kind of like getting back at the insane people running the asylum? Is it, they're are they exploiting us? Are these companies exploiting us, the users of these mobile devices and Foursquare?
Well, I mean, it's common sense. You don't have to sign up for it. It's like anything else. You don't necessarily have to participate, and you can. It's engagement. If you're shopping, for example, at the Nike store, and you walk in and you get a coupon, a digital coupon that says, here's $10 off your next purchase. Well, that's pretty damn good. And I'm going to sign up for whatever else I need to do that allows me to get that level of reward for participating with your brand. And everybody's looking for a deal today. I mean, it's free is still copy that's used across all advertising. So, I don't think that's ever going to go away.
You mentioned how the technology is enhancing what you do, and it's great, and you still have that basic idea. What about the problem with the fact that the technology now can cover all the data? At school, the students learn the technology, and they can make something that's really, glamorous with bells and whistles together. As you pointed out, it's a fundamental idea. Doesn't that sometimes get lost in business?
Yes, that could happen. But the fact that, from my side, which is more the client side, the fact you can rectify that mistake, for example, on social media, you're upset, you're at Southwest Airlines, your flight's delayed an hour and a half, and JetBlue sends you a message saying, jump on this flight, you'll be ready to go in 20 minutes. That's client service, and that's loyalty, and that's hard to buy. So the fact that you have a medium that allows you to capture and engage your audience so targeted like that is phenomenal from the client side. From the creative side, yes, the message could get lost because there's so many. You're living in a fast-paced world, and you're almost like, well, did these people even get the gist of this campaign? With everything going on, but that's part of evolution.
To kind of just close on that, just because you can put a drop shadow on some Helvetica, that doesn't make you a good art director. Plain and simple. That's just a fact. Yeah, come on, it's a great spot out there. But anyway,
The question would be, what is the emerging positions that are coming up as technology is taking over, or is coming into play?
Programming is huge. Anything that has to do with back-end, CMS platforms, there's the face of the internet, and then there's the whole behind the scenes, which is really the back-end programming. So to me, that's been growing in our agency tremendously. Anything interactive, 3D animation is also a growth as far as in our work. In our repertoire of work, that's been an avenue that just anything interactive is just through the roof. And also strategy. I don't think there was that many strategy directors back in the day. Maybe you guys could, fill me in, but I feel like that's a position that's a luxury, but it's also very important. There's times where you can win a client due to a better strategy.
The creative is an expression of a strategy of the work to be done. In the 60s, we were talking about, it was all the USP was about the product. Then in the 80s, we invented the branding and started to build up the strategy around the branding. What are we doing today? Because I would kind of think that today branding is kind of over. So what is the strategy of advertisers? What is the message they're trying to achieve out there? What creative brief do you receive from them?
I think it continues to evolve, but I think it's a little short-sighted to say that it used to be about the product and then it was about building brands and now branding is over. I mean, that's like, again, the cover of Wired that says the internet is dead. You know, that's a great way to get attention and to get people to say, oh my goodness, what happened? But it's not entirely accurate. Branding actually, if you think online, becomes more significant now than anything because it's the only way, perhaps, to generate visits. If you go on eBay and you want to buy something, one of the ways you decide what to buy is by a brand name that you recognize. And if you want a camera, you put in cameras, you'll get 18 million cameras. So then you say, well, I want a digital SLR. Okay, so now you've reduced it to 3 million. Then if you say, well, I want Pentax, or I want Canon, or I want a Canon Rebel, or I want a Nikon, you're going to reduce it further. So branding becomes almost like somebody kicking tires in a car dealership. They don't know anything about cars, and kicking the tire certainly doesn't tell you anything about a car, but it lets people think, oh, that car is good, or that car is substantial, or something. So the brand messaging, in my opinion, is actually more important than ever. But to your point, what has changed? I think what has changed is now products are so ubiquitous and products are so good today that it's no longer about the function of what the product does. Think about televisions. Remember, 20 years ago, televisions broke. Right? They wouldn't work anymore. You had to get a new tube, you had to change it. That doesn't happen. Televisions don't break anymore. The only reason people change televisions is because they came out with those cool flat screens, and then once everybody went out and bought flat screens, then they did Blu-ray, and now they're going to do 3D because they have to keep us consuming, because the television's never going to break. When we bought flat screens finally last year in my house, I had these two perfectly good Iowa and Sony Trinitron. I couldn't give them away. Nobody in my office wanted them, the housekeeper didn't want them, so I finally took them to Goodwill. You know, the trailers in the shopping center parking lots? And I'm taking out rusty bicycles that the kids had and clothes that are ripped and disgusting. And they're taking all that stuff. And then I take out these boxes of television, and the woman on top of the trailer goes, no. Now I figure people bring broken televisions, right? Everybody would, but this television works, and I made them enough that I have the box, the manual, the control, So I said, no, this one works, plug it in. She says, we don't want it. I said, how can you not want it? It's a perfectly good television. She says, mister, poor people have flat screens. So if there's no reason to buy this stuff anymore, then to your point, selling the product ain't going to work. So what they have to sell, and what we have to sell instead, is how the product makes us feel or look. It's nowadays marketing, good marketing, is all about us. It is no longer about products. It's no longer about function because everything works. Everything is good enough. It's about us, what we think of ourselves and how we can make ourselves feel better. And thankfully, our society is so insecure, it's rather relatively easy.
Yeah, to follow up on that point, you're absolutely right. We use a saying again, product plus your personality equals your brand. And brand will trump quality any day. You know, Nike, I'm a long distance runner, so I love Nike's support for runners. They have great online tools.
But you wear ASICs.
I do not wear Nikes to run. And Nike doesn't sell you shoes. They don't sell you running shoes. They sell you a lifestyle. And their philosophy is that inside every person is an athlete waiting to get out. That's all. So they've built their product around the personality of an active lifestyle. And whether active means to you that you're getting up, putting on the shoes, walking to Starbucks and getting a sugary mocha latte frap or whatever, that's your exercise. You know, and they're just happy that you're in their product because your brand makes you feel a certain way. So I don't think that's ever going to go away, no matter what technology we introduce along.
Do you know what percentage of Nikes never, ever see athletic activity? 78% of Nike products sold are never used for sports.
Bottom line really is, turn of the century, the advertising industry was developed, and the basis of it is simply to create a desire for something you don't really need.
And you can't afford it.
Can't afford it.
What makes us much better as people because we have it.
So would you say that psychology plays a more role today than, say, in early 90s and so on, like the AT&T Reach Out America, campaign was very successful by hurting and healing people, and using MLP and so on. Is that less effective today? And does it technology playing into the role?
I think it's just as important as it ever was. And I think NLP is actually becoming more and more important as you have more practitioners of it, and people are actually now seeing not only how well it works, but how manipulative it is, and at the same time can generate the kind of results people want. I think so. At least by the good practitioners. Remember, you also have to separate. There's people who are doing the good, cool stuff, and then there's everybody else. So you can answer that and say, no, it's not, because most people aren't using it. There are the folks who are.
Take one last question, right here.
Could you talk about how the relationship over the years between the ad agency and the client, the project, has changed over the years?
It hasn't changed. It's still the same. It's filled with hypocrisy. Lunches are the most important tool any salesman could possibly have. They were lavish, they were long, and they were liquid. And you did most of your business that way, and they would last 2, 3, 4 hours, and it's to this very day. If you don't take a client to lunch often and sell them a good bill of goods, it's the same thing that happened back in the 50s and in the 60s and the 70s. I jumped the fence from the resource era of graphic design over to advertising management position, which I held for about 10 years. And now I was dealing with the ad agencies as a consumer to them. And the lunches were lavish, and they were long, and they were liquid, and they sold me. The industry is still the same.
There is a slight difference today, especially when it comes to media buying for some of the larger brands. Recently, I think again, Anheuser-Busch and Coors partnered up. Some of the largest advertising purchasers partnered up and decided, we're going to take this media buying responsibility away from our agencies, and we're going to control it. That's a phenomenal amount that's gone. And then they're coming back to the agencies, and they're going directly to the point. They're going to all the networks, and they're saying, this is what we're going to spend. What can you do for us? This is this agency commission. Don't worry about that anymore. This is our pool, and this is what we want. So find creative ways to give it to us. And the agency and client relationship is shifting. It's shifting again. Clients are more demanding. They want a social media campaign that gets them, the top hit on Google and trends all over the world because they put the commercial on YouTube. It doesn't work that way. There's an education process that has to go through. And just because people are aware of some of the buzzwords, I don't think it necessarily makes our job as agency creators any easier. I think the relationship is definitely shifting, client and agency.
In my experience, I think it depends who's on the other side of the fence. If you have the type of marketing director or head of marketing, what have you, that knows and understands marketing and advertising versus somebody that you have to educate along the way, that's a huge challenge for us, because your rapport is much different with somebody that knows more or less what needs to get done versus someone who you need to start with. This is a logo, this is your tagline, and piecemeal it can be painful. But I think the ultimate and most important element that you need to establish is trust. And if you have that, no matter what medium comes in, or if somebody goes to them directly, which is also happening a lot nowadays, your vendors just calling the client directly. It's a paradigm. It's shifting, but at the same time, you have that trust with the client, like you said, either out to lunch or what have you. And sometimes it's about clicking. Do you click with your clients? Do you not? Do you respect each other? And I think communication has become very fast. So, it's much easier to get a one-line email out than to pick up the phone and spend some time with your client trying to really listen to what they need. And people go to email. It's just quicker, and even text with clients. So that's where I've seen it change a lot.
I'd like to thank all of our panelists for coming tonight.